Sarah Sackman, thanks so much for talking to us. David Lammy said not so long ago that jury trials are the success story of our justice system. Was he wrong?
Jury trials are a success story, and indeed they are a cornerstone of British justice and will remain so after today's plans. What's not such a success story is the fact that we inherited record and rising backlogs in our courts. Today the number starts at 80,000 cases and it's on the rise, due to hit 100,000 by 2028. What does that mean? Behind each and every one of those cases, there's an individual story. There's a victim waiting for their case to be heard. Right now in London, if a victim reports their crime, they're being told that that crime might not be tried until 2030. So justice isn't being served because witnesses are pulling out of the process, victims are pulling out. And so what we're doing today is to propose a set of reforms that will restore confidence in our justice system, get those delays down, and indeed preserve jury trial for the most serious cases.
You're basically saying, it's about fast justice rather than the best justice, good justice.
It's both. We've got to guarantee a fair trial, and timeliness is an essential ingredient of fairness.
Success story.
We've got, right now in our system, 90% of cases being heard without a jury in our magistrates. That's fair, robust justice, and part of the fairness is about the swiftness. We need to deliver swifter justice for victims. What's not fair is a victim of crime being told today that she needs to wait until 2029, 2030 for her day in court. We're going to be preserving jury trials for the most serious cases, like rape, like murder, like kidnapping, like robbery. But what we are saying...
Not for things like assault and theft in some cases.
Well, let's take the example of theft. Supposing a defendant is accused of stealing a bottle of whiskey. Is it right that we allow the defendant to insist on a slower, more expensive jury trial in the same queue as the victim of rape, making her wait, and in some cases justice not being served? That's the choice that we've made today.
But it's about justice being served for everyone, not just the most serious cases.
Absolutely. I want to ensure that we've got swift justice right across our justice system, and it's why today is about saying we're in a crisis and we need to ensure fair justice for everybody. It's why we asked Sir Brian Leveson, one of our most distinguished judges, to propose a set of recommendations to collect the evidence, and today we're acting on those recommendations.
It just feels like, you're getting rid of a historic pillar of our justice system just to speed things up. It feels like, you're kind of sort of pulling the easiest lever. You said this was a government that was not about sticking plaster solutions.
What we're doing is making some important but actually modest changes about where you draw the line. So any case that's what's called indictable only...
It's not going to be for those victims.
This is actually all about victims. So today, as well as the changes, the reforms that Brian Leveson told us were needed and which we're acting on, we're also investing in the system for victims, a package of over £500 million for victim services to support them and keep them engaged in the justice system. This is about swifter justice for victims. It's about fixing the system and delivering for the British public.
You say it's about swifter justice. Can you quantify the impact that this will have on the backlog?
It's a really good question. So, as I said, we've inherited these record rising backlog. The delays are getting worse and worse. And you speak to anyone, whether it's a barrister, a judge, court staff, anyone who's been inside a court, and they will tell you that the delays are intolerable and we can't just sit back.
Sorry, can we just try and quantify what it will actually mean in terms of the numbers?
So what we're going to be doing is where we take this package of reforms that's been recommended to us by Brian Leveson, add to that the investment we're making in sitting days and in legal aid, and what we believe is that in combination that will begin to turn the backlog by the end of this Parliament, stop it going up and bring it down to sustainable levels.
By how many?
Well, we've got to have a system that is sustainable. We don't have these sorts of delays.
It sounds like you don't really have the numbers.
Oh, we absolutely do have the numbers. What I'm saying is that we have a mountain to climb, and that's why the radical action plan that we're setting out today is so desperately needed.
David Lammy also said criminal trials without juries are a bad idea. You won't fix a backlog with trials that are widely perceived as unfair. Why is that no longer the case?
We need to deliver fairness right across our criminal justice system. Most cases right now are heard by magistrates. They're heard fairly, they're heard swiftly. We are going to be asking our magistrates to take on more cases, but we also need to make sure that jury trials are happening in a timely fashion. And that's exactly why today's intervention, building on the evidence, guided by the expertise that we sought out, is going to bring swift justice for victims right across the criminal justice system.
I just don't think I understand why suddenly, David Lammy, and you no longer think that these trials are unfair.
We think that jury trials are fair. We think that the trials that we get in a magistrate's court, where you might be heard by a district judge or a magistrate, are also fair. The thing that's changed since David Lammy made those comments, where he's right about a jury trial and the importance of it, it's why we're keeping it as an essential part of the system. But the thing that's changed is that when he said that, we weren't in a backlog of 80,000 cases with some victims waiting years for their day in court and pulling out the process.